and to the left of me is a black Corniche Rolls-Royce convertible, red interior, with a great-looking young guy. 12 years into this, I had decided to get the car of my dreams. So I paid cash. This was an 850i BMW, white with an indigo blue interior. So it was beautiful. And I got in that car, and I remember I felt like I was on the cockpit of a Learjet. It was just beautiful. And I drive it down to the coast, which is about 10 minutes away because I'm living in Santa Monica. And I come up Wilshire Boulevard, and to the left of me is a black Corniche Rolls-Royce convertible, red interior, with a great-looking young guy driving it. And I kind of sunk down in my seat, and I just wanted his car instead of mine. I had worked so hard in my life to be driving what I was driving, and the dream lasted 10 minutes and 37 seconds because now I wanted his car.
Hello friends, JT Tapias with the Empty Your Bucket Nutrition Plan, and today in the show we have a special guest, a friend, someone that I coincidentally just bumped into. I like to call it a God incidence, and I was working out at my community gym here in the community where I live, and I was with a buddy, and I looked over to the side and I saw people running and biking and doing all these high cardiovascular activities, but then I see this guy who's just doing slow burn cardio. Now, if you follow me, you know that I love slow burn cardio. It's one of our pillars inside of the Empty Your Bucket Nutrition Plan. And so, of course, right away, he caught my attention. And I didn't say much. I just kept watching him, and I saw that he kept his pace. I'm like, oh, that's pretty cool. And we walked out of there, and he was walking out at the same time. And I happened to compliment him and say, hey, I saw you doing slow burn in there. We connected. We set up a coffee date, got together, and that's what we're here to talk about today. Doug is an amazing story, and I want to share this story with you because I truly believe that it has so much value, especially for everyone, but especially for those young ones out there that are just getting started. You're chasing a lot of things. You think the grass is greener on the other side. Well, Doug is here to tell us a sort of a cautionary tale, but one that's very empowering. And so I'm excited, Doug, to have you here. Welcome to the show. Tell us a little bit about yourself.
Yeah, well, first of all, JT, thank you for having me. It's an honor to be here, to be asked. Well, my name is Doug, and I grew up in Miami Beach to a large family. There were 5 of us, 4 boys and a younger sister. And I'm retired now.
Okay.
You know, I had spent most of my life here in Miami, but 20 years out in LA. And moved back to Florida, enjoying myself now.
Very cool. Very cool. So, Doug, we basically we sat in that little community area there in our where we live, and you opened up, and we sort of went back and forth. We had lots of parallels there, lots of synchronicity in our lives, and you shared your testimony with me, and it was so powerful. And so, guys, just so you know, and you can watch this entire interview because I think it's packed with so many golden nuggets. But Doug was a successful chiropractor in Beverly Hills, working with some of the top celebrities, people that if I mentioned their names, you would right away know who I'm talking about. And Doug decides at one point that, enough is enough. And he didn't quit because things were going bad. He actually quit at the top of his game. So I think that's incredibly powerful. But I want to get into some of these things. Before all these amazing things started to happen in your life, you had some particular situations that were holding you back. Can you tell us a little bit about that?
Sure. Well, I grew up in the late 60s. I'm 70 years old now. So
well, great.
Thank you. I unknowingly started playing around with grass. Smoking pot, like a lot of people were back then.
Sure.
And I was quarterback of the high school football team. So I was very into sports. And as life progressed, I got further and further involved with pills. And while I was getting an education, and then alcohol. So
where were you at this point, Doug?
I started drinking after college, but I did a lot of drugs throughout college.
Gotcha. So it was
18, 19, 20, 21, a lot of drugs.
So it was actually the opposite for you because most of the time alcohol is that gateway drug per se, right? But you did it the other way around. It was drugs and then the alcohol.
I would say so, and I would say the gateway drug was pot.
It was pot.
I got relief from grass. Yeah.
That's interesting because there's a lot of people out there saying, "Oh, pot's, it's not a problem," but you're saying that actually served as a gateway to other.
It relieved anxiety and helped me sleep.
Wow.
Yeah.
But it opened up as a gateway for other things in your life.
Definitely.
Right. Wow. Okay. Well, one interesting distinction I'm making here is that, and I grew up in New York City, so most of the kids that I went to school with were Jewish, and one of the things was the Jewish kids were always great at academia, right? That was their thing. The academics were great, but they were never athletes. So you were already an outlier, a quarterback of the team. You were already, distinguishing yourself because most Jewish people, they're great with schooling, but athletics is not necessarily the thing. So you go in, you're a quarterback. I'm sure you're popular in school, just like every athlete is. You start the pot. The pot leads you into what drug?
Sedatives, basically.
Okay.
I took speed to play football and speed to study. Wow. But then you need something to come down off of it. I didn't really love the taste of alcohol, so I found sedatives. And back then, a drug named Quaaludes were around, and that's what really I got addicted to for 12 years.
For those of us that are not well versed with these names, what is a Quaalude?
Quaalude is a hypnotic drug where your body tingles all over. What's not to love about that?
Right.
You can take a deep breath and relax, and all the fears seem to go away. And it turns basically a anxiety-ridden self into a bulletproof self.
Wow.
So
you feel invincible.
Oh, invincible.
Wow. I actually remember that in the movie Scarface. Scarface was always saying, "You want a Quaalude?"
Oh, really? That's true.
So, wow. Okay. And this is right around what year?
1971, 72.
Okay. I wasn't even born yet. I was born in 78. But
all right.
71, 72. Okay. So you're getting into all this, and then tell us a little bit about the evolution of that. You graduate school, you get into the drugs, you get pretty heavy into drugs. You grew up in Miami?
I grew up in Miami Beach.
Okay. In the 70s.
Yes.
Man, this is what they call the Colombian bonanza.
That's what it was then.
Yeah. When the Colombian cartels came to the U.S. and stormed the U.S. with cocaine. And as a Colombian, it's very embarrassing to admit that, but that's what that era was called. So growing up in that time was crazy. So you're in Miami, you pick up these sort of these addictions, and then you go to Tampa.
I do go to Tampa. After I was in my first drug rehab, I was at the University of Miami, actually.
Okay.
Business major, doing okay. Parents knew something was wrong, put me in a drug program on Miami Beach. At the end of the program, we negotiated if I could leave Miami, which I wanted to. I wanted to get away from anyone having control over me. So I transferred to the University of South Florida at that point.
USF.
Yep.
Nice. See, this is where we start to have some coincidence, and that's my old stomping grounds.
That's right. That is.
And so we're currently in Port St. Lucie, Florida, right next to West Palm, but we moved from Tampa. So went to USF as well, and so I'm very, very familiar with that area. So you go to USF, and things start to spiral out of control. In Tampa, is that how that?
Tampa was the real good beginning of spiraling out of control, yet I always maintained my academics. I took speed during the day to go to my classes, and then I was at the library every night till 10.
Wow.
And then to come down off of the speed, I would take a couple of Quaaludes in the library, and I would look for a her out there, and my world became unpredictable. I could not predict the consequences of being loaded like that every day.
Yeah. So when you say her, what do we mean by that?
I loved female companionship,
Sure.
as most college students and guys do.
Yeah.
And, I had a number of girlfriends at that time, and so I'd hook up with one.
Yeah.
Every night.
Wow. Okay. So there was drugs, alcohol, promiscuity, all these things going on at the time. You're filling this void Did you ever recognize it as that? Like, man, I'm empty and I'm trying to fill this, or was it
No,
just
too young.
Too young.
You know, that's what the goal is, to make decent grades,
right?
have a lot of girls, have the best drugs,
Yeah.
be driving a nice car. What could be better than that?
What were you driving at the time?
A Cutlass Supreme,
Okay.
which was an okay car back then.
Sure. Very cool. So Tampa gets a little crazy, and is this where you actually end up homeless?
No,
Okay.
no,
Tell us
that's
a little bit about that.
a number of years later. Well, a number of years later, after I bottomed out, trying some different jobs in Florida, I was the assistant mall manager for the Volusia Mall up in Daytona Beach.
Daytona. Okay.
And they were training me to be a mall manager for a new mall they were opening up in Georgia. So that was a great opportunity that I blew, one of many. And
Did you get fired from that job?
I did get fired from that job.
Okay.
And it was a tough firing. And then I just went downhill from there with
Gotcha.
alcohol and drugs.
Were you just not showing up?
No, I was showing up. I got loaded at work.
Oof.
So when you drool and slur and have trouble walking down the mall you're supposed to be an assistant mall manager of, it's not going to be tolerated.
Yeah, that's not a good look.
For more than 3 hours.
For sure. Okay, so Daytona, and then, so you get fired from this job. At this point, do you realize you have an issue, or?
Yeah, I knew I started to have an issue. I was 22 years old. I had been in rehab. Then I came back to Miami and went into another rehab to try to get a handle on my life.
Your parents are paying for all this.
My dad said, listen, apparently you're disabled with your mind and your drugs. I'm going to pay for an apartment for you in, of all places, Coconut Grove, right? And my father, and it's very sad when I look back at it, he said, just try not to kill yourself. That's tough for a father to say to a son who did well in college. I graduated with a 3.7 GPA, and he expected something of me. Now he's putting me basically in an apartment saying, don't kill yourself.
Yeah. What was your father's background? What did he do for work?
Yeah, he was the senior vice president of a corrugated box company in Jacksonville, Florida, where I was born.
Okay.
And then he retired to Miami Beach.
Gotcha. Yeah, that's super tough. So you get fired from the Volusia Mall in Daytona. You go back to Miami, right? For a little period there.
Correct.
And then you're starting to sort of think, hey, I have to go in a different direction here. And then you go from there to California.
Well, I had sent applications to law school, and I got accepted to a law school in Glendale, California. And I thought, it's called taking a geographic.
Okay.
So I was running from my problems, but all with the good intentions of going to law school. And so I drove across the country. Parents said it was okay.
Yeah.
And I enrolled in law school, living in a motel.
Wow.
On Colorado Boulevard. And I found myself drinking during the day and taking speed at night to go to law school at night. And 3 months into that, my brother
died from a drunk accident that he had. And that's when I dropped out of law school. I came back at his funeral, by the way, and I overdosed on pills in Miami the afternoon of when we put his coffin in the ground.
So you were obviously devastated by your brother's death. Yeah. And were you trying to take yourself out, or did you just?
I don't think I was intentionally. I just didn't want to feel the sadness and pain. Yeah. A lot of people who overdose, it's not intentional, especially with the fentanyl, what's going on today. They just want to be out of it.
Yeah.
They don't
want to get out of pain.
Right.
So you overdose, you end up at the hospital. Your dad's probably going nuts on this kid's going to drive us crazy. What was that like?
Yeah, he wasn't going to let me come back. We have another family meeting. Many people know about the family meeting.
Yeah.
When you're the black sheep of the family, you're going to have a lot of those meetings. And he was not going to let me go back out to California, but I convinced him that I'd be okay and went back to California.
Okay. So this is now another situation. Is this an eye opener for you? Is it start?
It's the beginning of the change.
Okay.
You know, I had one more run in me, actually 2 more runs, but I went back to California. I was not in law school anymore, so I have free time. And when I don't have when I have free time and I'm a practicing alcoholic and addict, I'm going to wake up and have a gin and tonic to take the anxiety away.
Yeah. And many people live their lives like that.
They do.
20, 30, 40, 50, 60, I mean, I hear a lot of stories like this. So, and I always say that saying that a bored man is a dangerous man, and not for that particular reason. And that's the reason I try to stay busy. I've also, been sober for 13 years, so I know those battles as well. Probably not as intense as you've lived them, but long enough to really scare the living lights out of me. So I get it. Okay, so you start to open your eyes. You're in California. When was the turning point when you said, man, I'm sick and tired of being sick and tired. There's no way to live. And you decided to clean up your act. How did that happen?
Well, I was busted for driving under the influence one early morning at 2 a.m. in Beverly Hills. What happened was I went to a party, and then I ended up in a stranger's apartment. And I'd been drinking heavily and taking pills. And I decided to drive home. And it was quite a drive. Marina Del Rey was quite a drive from Beverly Hills. Fortunately for me, a police officer pulled me over. I thought I could always sober up if I saw the blue lights behind me, but that's not the case if you take enough pills. I just gave him my license and slurred my words out and said, step out of the car. Let's go.
Yeah. So he handcuffed you, put you in the back of his car.
Went to a hospital. They drew blood, brought me to jail. And that was the wake-up call when I was sitting on my cot early in the morning. I had realized I had done this to me. I've been in 3 rehabs. My brother had died from drugs, and I'm going to be next. There was no doubt in my mind. So that's when I went into another recovery center and got introduced to the 12-step program, in which I remain today. And August 7th, I'll be clean and sober 42 years. A lifetime. God is great.
Okay, so really quick for those, 12-step is so well known, but just a quick overview of what those 12 steps are.
Well, really quickly, one is admitting powerlessness.
I'm out of control.
Out of control, and my life had become unmanageable, which is not hard for a lot of people coming into a 12-step room. When the dump truck of life dumps them off with all their problems, it's not hard to see, wow, alcohol and drugs may have contributed to this.
Maybe.
Yeah, maybe, right?
Yeah. Wow. So, okay, so you get to this 12-step program, things start to slowly but surely look up. You start to clean up your act. You're sober at this point. Once you're sober, do you have that moment of saying, okay, Doug, you got to do something with your life?
Absolutely. When I was a year sober and I had gotten my medallion for a year, I was in a good friend's home, he had a beautiful home, and he had a profession that was amazing. He was a plastic surgeon, young, good-looking guy. He looked like Frank Sinatra. And he said to me, Doug, what are you going to do with your life? And I knew it was time that I started to do something. I spent the first year doing a lot of recovery. And, well, he said, what would you like to do? I said, I'd like to be a plastic surgeon like you. He said, well, you're 28, 29 years old. That may take a while. Not to say you couldn't do it, but what else would you want to do? And I said, well, I always wanted to be a chiropractor. That would be a dream. but that's going to take a long time, and that's a lot of science to get into chiropractic college. And he said, well, what makes you think you can't do it? You haven't tried. Well, I've learned in 12-step, you put your fantasies to rest and make your dreams come true. You've got to try, So that's what I did. I went back to college, and a couple of years later, I earned a Bachelor of Science in Human Biology, and I made straight A's. But I had to go over some subjects a lot in order to perform well in my testing. Now, this is all clean and sober.
Yeah.
So it's very scary when you're approaching these stalls clean and sober.
You remind me of, so Eminem, the rapper, says that when he was cleaning up, right, when he went sober, he had to learn and teach himself how to perform without the drugs. Did you experience that? Like how to study without the drugs?
You feel like you're on another planet. It's so different when you've been loaded all the time to entering a sober world. That's why I'm really glad now my foundation year, your first year in recovery, I needed to be a lot of 12-step meetings to learn how to cope.
Yeah. And being around other people that are dealing with the same situations and sort of troubleshooting those situations with, I know is incredible, which we talked a lot about in our program. Being in an environment that's supportive of what you're trying to do is so, so important. One of our favorite sayings is disciplined people spend less time in tempting situations, which is super powerful, right? And it's what this group of people does for you. So I know your inspiration to go to Chiro school was you had an injury when you were playing football, and it's this Chiro fixed your shoulder, and you're like, what an amazing profession. You have this conversation with your friend you're staying with, the plastic surgeon. He inspired you to go to school. You go through that. It sounds like you were pretty you had an inclination for academics, because it seems like whenever you decided to, you would do well. We don't share that. We don't have that. But and so you get through school, you graduate, and now you have this degree. You're sober at this point. What's the next step?
Well, the next step is to work for somebody to learn a little bit about the business, because you're not really taught the business at all. You're taught the sciences and how to jump through the hoops to get the ticket.
Sure.
Once you get the ticket, you have to learn something about business. You don't want to make major mistakes when you start off.
Sure.
So I worked for this gentleman in Santa Monica, and he dealt with professional singers, so pretty big name people. Celebrities, yeah, definitely. And I thought, you know what? I think I'm going to throw my hat over the fence, and I'm going to open a practice. And I picked Beverly Hills. Why not shoot for the top? And shoot for the stars. If you end up on the moon, you've still done pretty well.
It's right. It's a Colombian proverb says that if you hide under a tree, you will always have shade.
Right.
So that's amazing. So you end up in Beverly Hills, great demographic, right? For a guy that's starting out in business. And it's the service industry, right? Which is, I always say, if you're in the service industry, make sure you're going to an at-home area. This is definitely one of those. And you start working with celebrity clients, your dreams sort of start to unfold before you. You're doing well financially. You're living. You had this beautiful place. Tell us about that place you bought. You mentioned you could see Marina Del Rey from, wasn't it?
Well, I was living in a beautiful condo over the Santa Monica beach. You could see the pier, the Ferris wheel go around, and it was amazing. I could stand outside off of my balcony and see celebrities from Malibu come up the California incline. If they had their top down and I had binoculars, I could actually make out who they were. So it was like I was living the dream.
Yeah. So you felt like you had arrived at that point?
Oh, without a doubt.
Yeah. Where was your ego?
And ego was big. I'll give you an ego story. 12 years into this, I had decided to get the car of my dreams. So I paid cash.
What car was this?
This was an 850i BMW, white with an indigo blue interior. So it was beautiful, 12-cylinder. And they drove it in from Palm Springs. I paid cash. And I got in that car, and I remember I felt like I was on the cockpit of a Learjet. It was just beautiful. And I drive it down to the coast, which is about 10 minutes away because I'm living in Santa Monica. And I come up Wilshire Boulevard, and to the left of me is a black Corniche Rolls-Royce convertible, red interior, with a great-looking young guy driving it. And I kind of sunk down in my seat, and I just wanted his car instead of mine. I had worked so hard in my life to be driving what I was driving, and the dream lasted 10 minutes and 37 seconds because now I wanted his car.
Wow. So at this point, you realize the grass is going to just continue to get greener and greener on the other side. This is a double-edged sword for humans, right? It's like we have that desire to continue to grow, but then the question is, how much is enough, right? And it seems like you saw that, and you think this was a celebrity. This is potentially someone, because tell me that story, because I thought that was really interesting.
Well, driving down in my first drive of the car, this gentleman who lives in Malibu, who was married to this beautiful actress also, she pulled up next to me in a Jaguar with the long hood, the bubble one, and looked over at me, and I knew who she was immediately. And I went, wow, she is beautiful. But she made a quick right, and I kept going further down, and then I'd make my right and come up Wilshire Boulevard, and I believed it looked just like the husband. And it was like amazing that I ran into both of them.
Right. So your dream at that point, you realized, man, I want that car. And you felt like, if I continue to go down this route, because Doug is a person of extremes, right?
Right.
All in or all out. Continue going down this route, I'm just going to want more and more and more. And then was that point where you decided, I think I need to stop here?
Well, I knew there was a void inside. I turned away from that car to get on a different street. And right then and there, within seconds, I said, wow, you have an issue. And if this did not fix you, nothing is going to fix you. No material item is going to fix what just happened to you. It was a God moment.
And because you're filling that bucket with cars and money and influence, and your clients were celebrities, and you're just realizing this stuff doesn't fill me up. It's not going to fill me up. I have a spiritual void in me, and until I fill that void, I'm just going to continue to chase it.
Right. But I couldn't just get out of what I was doing. I'd spent so many years in recovery, learning a profession. And that's when I realized that I better just stay in chiropractic. I enjoyed chiropractic, but I didn't love the business of constantly finding patients and all.
Sure.
So, I stayed in it for a couple more years, not feeling happy.
But that was a turning point.
That was a turning point.
Traffic light epiphany was a turning point for you. You realized that there was a void, that nothing material was going to fill you, that you had a spiritual void. And, that's one of the parts that I believe the 12-step process really emphasizes, is that there is a bigger power and that we're not in control. And so you sort of you give into this epiphany idea. You start to think of, how do I exit this? You retire at the age of 44, which is pretty young. I just turned 45. I'm not ready to retire anytime soon, so I got to get some tips from you. But so you retire and you say, that's it, I'm done. You went into finance, right? But at this point, you're managing your own finances.
That is correct.
You're your only client.
That is correct.
That's so smart. And okay, so to close out, because we're getting here close to the end, and I want to make sure we keep this pretty tight. I
I think it's so important for people on the other side that are watching this to understand that no matter how much money they make, no matter what car they drive, no matter where they live, no matter how many drugs, alcohol, or things they do to try to numb the pain, no matter what they do, they're going to continue to chase their tail if that void that we're all born with, right, called the God space, right, until we fill that with something that's immutable, like God, right, that they're just going to continue to chase their tail. For those young people and for everyone out there that's still in that rate, that they're still in that rat race, they're still chasing all the shiny things. Give us your 30-second best advice. If you were on your deathbed and someone came to you and said, Doug, I'm starting from scratch, I'm chasing shiny things, what would you say to that person?
Well, I would say chase shiny things until you get a wake-up call, like I did. And then don't wait a couple of years. Go ahead and make some changes that you need to make to find the peace. Because I thought it was all about the stuff and being happy. I'll take peace any day. And there are other dreams you can have too. So I wanted to travel. I've been to 150 countries, all 7 continents, and into a 12-step recovery meeting on all 7 continents. So you got to put your fantasies to rest and make your dreams come true. Live below your means. Okay, so that when you're retired, you can have a life.
Yeah, you can have that bandwidth.
Definitely.
Amazing. Doug, thank you so much for sharing your life with us, your wisdom. You impacted me so much from that day. By the way, this is our 2nd meeting, right?
Yes.
And, we hadn't talked in 8 months maybe. And I still remember, right? Pretty clearly. You said, well, you have a good memory. But that's because the conversation impacted me so much. Within the Empty Your Bucket Nutrition Plan, which is, in essence, is a nutrition plan. But all we're doing is using fitness and nutrition as a platform for personal development. In other words, we believe that the body is this activating your physiology and taming your hunger can teach you discipline that then can translate into other areas of your life. And, the whole idea of the Empty Your Bucket Plan started out as empty out your preconceived notions, false belief systems, and all the fad diets you've done. But then 20-something years later, when I had my spiritual transformation, I realized that it wasn't just about fad diets, false beliefs, and preconceived notions. It was about that. My bucket I was trying to fill it with things of this world. And I got to that breaking point, just like you did, where I said, this is not going to fill me. And I just looked up and said, guy, I'm out of control. I need you to take the wheel. It was then when my life started to transition. And now that bucket has been filled with solid things. It's provided me with, a stable business, a beautiful family. I didn't have an example growing up. I grew up in a very dysfunctional family. So God has really been my mentor and taught me these things step by step. And so I just see so many parallels between our lives. And I'm just thankful for you. I'm grateful for opening up to us. I really hope that you guys watch this, apply it, watch it a couple of times. If something really resonated with you, write it down, because we don't write things down. We don't take action. If you don't take action, nothing will happen. Doug, thank you so much for this interview.
Thank you, JT. This was fun.
I look forward to bringing you back a second time and talking about some other things, because I know we can talk for hours. So awesome. Thank you so much, guys. Thank you for watching Empty Your Bucket Nutrition Plan. If we're not friends yet, if you haven't subscribed to our channel, please do so. Hit that like button, and we look forward to seeing you very soon. Ciao.